Good morning, PTNI's Daily Show. Happy Tuesday morning. Hope your Tuesday is off to a fantastic start. Welcome to Clinical Tuesday on the PTNI's Daily Show, brought to you by the Institute of Clinical Excellence. My name is Alan. I'm happy to be your host today, currently serving as the Chief Operating Officer for ICE, as well as a faculty member in our Fitness Athlete Division. Live here Facebook, live here Instagram. Sorry about the lighting. Try to block it with my head. It looks worse on Instagram than Facebook. Sorry about that. Some courses coming your way if you're looking to come learn from us this summer at ICE. Out on the West Coast, July 24th and 25th, we have Jordan Berry bringing lumbar spine management to Santa Barbara, California. That same weekend, if you're on the East Coast, you can join Justin Dunaway for total spine thrust manipulation. That's going to be in Hopewell Junction, New York. That will also be July 24th and 25th. The weekend of July 31st and August 1st, you have two different chances to catch Fitness Athlete live. If you're in the Midwest, you can join Mitch in Kansas City, Missouri. Or if you're in the Southeast, you can join Zach Long down in Hollywood, Florida, which is just north of Miami. Again, that's July 31st and August 1st. You can join cervical spine management in Baton Rouge, August 7th and 8th. That'll be with Zach Morgan. And then that same weekend in Orlando, you can join Jason for rehab of the injured runner. Again, that'll be August 7th and 8th. And then don't forget about our free Fitness Athlete case study, the second Wednesday of every month. That will be tomorrow night, Wednesday the 14th, and that'll be at 7:30 Eastern. You can get that link in multiple ways. You can go to the ICE Facebook page. You can look at events and subscribe to the case study event to get the Zoom link. You can check out Hump Day Hustling tomorrow morning if you're subscribed to our email newsletter and get the link there. Or you can go on Instagram starting tomorrow morning and get the swipe up link as well to get on that Zoom call. And then we post the recording in the ICE Students Facebook page. How do you get access to the ICE Students Facebook page? You have to have taken an ICE course before. So if you've taken an ICE course before, you can join that group and the recordings will be posted there every month. Tomorrow night we're going to look at a CrossFitter using PT to rehab from a really nasty mountain bike accident and getting back into CrossFit, going through PT here at Health HQ. So very, very interesting case study. Don't miss that one tomorrow night. So what are we talking about today? Today is Clinical Tuesday. We're talking about clinical pearls and tips and tricks. And I want to tackle a question we get here often, which is, how do I know how much physical therapy somebody needs? How many times a week? How many sessions total? How vigorous? How heavy do we need to go? When do I know if somebody could get away with once a week or every other week or once a month? Where do the different factors that determine that come from? And I want to talk about the 5 factors that I use clinically to determine how much and how long of a PT episode of care we're looking at when a patient comes into the clinic. Now, some of these factors you simply will not know until you do the patient evaluation. Some of these are from gathering subjective and objective data from the patient. Others are things that we'll need to specifically ask the patient. If we don't specifically ask some of these, then we'll never know the answer. So some of them we'll discover in evaluation. Some of them we need to sit down with the patient in that evaluation and deliberately ask questions to determine the answers to some of these factors. So let's talk about the 5 factors to help you determine plan of care length. So the first one is going to be discovered in the evaluation. It's going to be the patient's symptoms, right? We're talking about the patient's irritability and severity. How rough of a go are they having or not? Is this patient maybe completely symptom-free and is just looking for accessory programming, recovery work, technique-focused physical therapy, more performance physical therapy? Obviously, that's a much, much different patient than, say, somebody who's post-op. So think of that patient who comes in. Their pain is always a 5 out of 10. It's never less than that. It instantly increases to a 10 out of 10 when they perform an aggravating factor. Maybe it's lifting their arm or reaching across their body. And it takes a very long time, maybe hours, maybe a day, maybe multiple days for that pain to calm back down. That's a very highly irritable patient with very severe symptoms. That person is probably, at least on the front end, going to need more physical therapy. And then someone who comes in and says, well, at rest, I have no pain. If I sit in the car for 45 minutes or an hour, it jumps up to a 3 out of 10. And then as soon as I get in the car, it goes away right away, right? So that is a patient who has very low irritability, very less severe symptoms. That is a person who maybe doesn't need physical therapy 3 times a week for 12 weeks, right? That person's symptoms are just not up there to cause a concern to think that we need to front load a lot of physical therapy acutely. And then we have a group of folks, of course, who are post-op, who need to be seen maybe more frequently at the front end for their post-op care. That kind of weans off as they get further and further away from that surgery. So that's the first factor. What are the symptoms? What is the irritability? What is the severity? The next is something we're going to discover about halfway through the evaluation after we've done our subjective and objective and determined what we're going to choose for our trial treatment, and then we conduct that trial treatment. So the second factor is, what is the response to trial treatment? How well a person responds or does not respond, again, is going to kind of clue me in to how much therapy I think this person needs. So somebody comes in, their shoulder abduction is maybe 105 degrees. We do some dry needling, maybe to their subscap. They sit back up, and wow, they have 175 degrees or so. Wow, big improvement, awesome response. This person responded well. They can probably get away with less physical therapy than maybe originally thought because they responded so well to a small amount of trial treatment. Versus that person with low back pain, you lay them down, you needle, you perform manipulation, they sit back up. Their pain has not changed. Their asterisk signs have not changed. Maybe their range of motion has not improved. That is a person who's you're thinking, wow, they barely saw a change or maybe no change at all. We definitely need to get them back in, if only to try a different treatment because the trial treatment response was not great. So 2 different types of patients, somebody that responds pretty well, somebody that barely responds or doesn't respond at all. The person that responds really well, in my mind, I'm thinking this person probably doesn't need to be here 3 to 5 days a week for the next couple weeks. They responded so well. We're probably going to be able to really reinforce the gains we've made, the changes in their symptoms and improvements in their asterisk signs in a less amount of physical therapy than the person who is not a good response or as much of a response as we would like to see to that trial treatment. That has the benefit, too, of the person who responds really well. We can move them to loading a lot faster, and we know that loading is what really progresses folks and keeps them better and gets them better. And ideally, if they can do that at home, again, we're thinking that person maybe does not need as much physical therapy. So we've got irritability and severity. We've got response to a trial treatment. The third factor is comorbidities. And so some of this will come from our intake. Some of this we'll really need to dig into. So 2 different examples. Maybe we have the CrossFitter who comes in, they're tracking their food, they know that they're eating their body weight in protein, they are exercising 4 to 6 days a week, they're following sleep hygiene recommendations, getting 8 to 10 hours of sleep a night, and they rarely drink alcohol. This person is probably going to need less physical therapy than somebody with a lot of issues on board, right? This person is, all things considered, very, very healthy, very fitness forward, probably has a low level of resting inflammation, and mainly maybe needs education on volume. Maybe they're overtraining. Maybe they are training for a competition or overtraining a specific movement, trying to get better at it. This is a person who, in general, can probably get away with a little less physical therapy than the next person, who is someone who comes in, they have all the comorbidities we're used to, all the signs and symptoms of metabolic syndrome, diabetes, high blood pressure, high cholesterol, right? They are very sedentary. Maybe they drink a lot of alcohol. Maybe they eat a lot of processed food. With that person, we know it's going to be really hard to budge the needle 1 day a week of physical therapy, right? That is a person that I'm thinking, at least early on, we need to front load a lot of physical therapy. That person probably needs to be in the clinic 2 to 3 days a week. We need to be obviously addressing their deficits, but also focused a lot on basically strength and conditioning, right? Building this person some sort of base because they really don't have one. Getting their heart rate up in the clinic with things like remoms and intervals on the bike or the rower to flush some of that systemic inflammation out and get them feeling better aside from the manual therapy and corrective exercises that we're used to doing. So comorbidities is the third factor that I look at when I'm choosing to determine how much therapy I think somebody needs. Now these next 2 are subjective. They're related to the patient, and if we do not specifically ask about them, then we're probably not going to find out the answer. And without these next two, the puzzle is not complete. That we need to know the fourth point about the patient's goals, which helps us better know what their timeline is. And then we need to know about their commitment, their ability to commit to physical therapy, both from a time and money perspective. So let's tackle number 4, patient goals. So that patient that comes in that's maybe a runner, that has a marathon coming up, or a CrossFitter who has a competition coming up, that says, hey, I have a big life event coming up. Maybe I'm going away to dance camp, right? Maybe I'm a teenage dancer and I'm going away to dance camp and I need to be able to perform. Oh, by the way, it's Monday afternoon. I need you to see me, fix me, because I'm going away this Saturday. Okay, so this is a person that has an acute upcoming life event where we know we may need to front load a lot of therapy because then that person has an event or is going away otherwise. So maybe this is a person that we're thinking, geez, I could get you in Tuesday morning, but if we really want to move the needle on this, maybe you need to come back Wednesday morning and Thursday morning and maybe even Friday morning and get a lot of PT in a short amount of time before your event happens, to try and basically patch you up as much as we can before your life event. This is obviously not ideal, but we surely know that this does happen in the clinic, right? People come in, I have a competition Saturday, it's Wednesday, how good can you get me in 48 hours, basically? So this is somebody that maybe we're going to do a lot of PT in a short amount of time. Versus somebody who comes in that is maybe symptom-free. Maybe they're just looking to maintain their gains. Maybe they're just looking to improve a specific weakness, work on technique. Maybe they want to work on Olympic weightlifting technique with you. No symptoms, no real timeline, right? They're not telling you they have a competition coming up. They just want to slowly get better at something they're bad at, right? That's maybe somebody you're thinking, well, yeah, you could come in one time a week and we could work on clean and jerks or snatching or whatever weakness you want to address, core weakness, you want to get better shoulder stability, whatever we want to work on, that can happen one day a week. We know we're not too rushed there for time. And then there's that patient who I call the lifelong patient. I think we need to get more comfortable having these folks on our caseload. That person who's symptom-free, they're just looking for an accessory program update from you. They know you're the expert in CrossFit or weightlifting or running, and they want to come in and check in with you, explain their training, have you look at their training, or maybe program them some accessory work, or they're just looking for recovery treatment. They have no symptoms. They come in during their deload week or something in their training, and they just get some dry needling to the big muscle groups of their body one time a month. So that lifelong patient is somebody we're not traditionally comfortable seeing. We tend to see no pain, which means go away, get out of my clinic, get off my caseload. But certainly there's a room on our caseload for these patients. And then the final factor is, what is your commitment to physical therapy? What are we looking at here? How much time do you actually have to do these exercises I'm going to give you? How much time do you have in your schedule to come to physical therapy? And what does it look like financially? Whether you're paying cash or we're using insurance, what do your benefits look like, and how is that going to determine how much you can attend physical therapy? At the end of the day, I think this is the most important one, and we often overlook it. Folks come in, they get a referral from their physician. They come in, it says 3 times a week for 8 weeks. What do? We have them book 3 times a week for 8 weeks at the front desk before they even leave after the initial evaluation, and we have them committed to thousands or even tens of thousands of dollars in physical therapy care, and we haven't even asked them, is this possible? Is this in the realm of possibility? Do you have the time for this? Do you have the money for this? We just kind of steamroll right over and say, hey, Dr. Smith said 3 times a week for 8 weeks. It's right on the sheet. We got to see you 24 times. We need to sit down with these people and ask, do you have access to equipment outside of physical therapy? If so, or if you can get some, then you don't need to come here as much. You can save your time and money by not coming here as much. Even if you can go out and buy a 25-pound dumbbell or some bands, we can kind of spice up what we give you for homework, and you can get better faster because you can do more stuff at home and not have to come here and watch you exercise 2 to 3 days a week for a couple of weeks. So that patient that has access to equipment outside of PT, they're really dedicated to performing their home program, they simply won't need as much physical therapy. They don't need to come here and watch me do their stuff. They can do it most days of the week on their own, and then we're just kind of progressing their visits. Maybe they're coming in once a week. We're asking how things went. That was too easy now. I actually bumped it up to 15 or 20 reps on my own. Okay, that's too easy. We're adding in more difficult stuff. We're maybe progressing tempo, adding load, increasing movement complexity, and getting them towards whatever their goal may be. Versus that person who maybe does know it or does not know it, that they need the accountability of coming in person. So some folks know that. They know, hey, if I don't come here, I'm not going to do it. My life is too busy, or I'm just that type of person where I need to have this on my schedule. I need to have the commitment of swiping my card when I come here to keep me coming here. If you cut me loose on my own, I'm never going to do this stuff on my own. I'm never going to get better. Some people don't know that. Some people know themselves very well, but it's important that we determine that as well. That person maybe needs to come in once a week or twice a week because they're not going to do their stuff otherwise, and they're not going to make the changes in their life and their lifestyle that they need to make to overcome whatever reason they're coming to physical therapy for. So two different types of people, one that can get away with kind of a prolonged home program, and one that needs to come in to the clinic on a more regular basis. Now, how do we do this? How do we put all this together and combine all this together? We need to include all these different 5 factors. What is the patient's irritability and severity? What is their response to trial treatment? What comorbidities are on board, if any? What are the patient's goals, and how pressed are we for time? How much better do we need to get in what time frame? And what is the commitment to PT, the 5th one? What kind of resources are we looking at, time, equipment, and money, that determines how often you need to come in or how infrequently we can get away with you coming in. So I've written down a couple of examples from my caseload, just looking at my schedule this week. We'll have the first patient here that we'll call Schmancy. Schmancy comes in 2 times a week for just general strength and conditioning. Older adult, 73 years old, has been a patient here for almost a year. First visit, barely walked in the door, could not stand up on her own, now living independently, thriving, doing well. 2 times a week of strength and conditioning with an older adult is not the sweet spot, but it's pretty close. It's a good amount of training volume. If we think of 2 to 4 days a week of exercise, we're right in the middle there. Would coming more frequently be ideal? Maybe 3 days a week? Yeah, I think we definitely could see even more progress than we have, but it's important to look at the other factors involved in determining that plan of care length, that this is a good matchup for this patient. This patient needs accountability. This patient is not going to do this stuff at home, has some level of commitment to PT, has obviously seen the progress being made, but money is a factor, right? Every time that she comes in, it's $35, and across 2 to 3 times a week, that can really add up. So taking into account this patient needs accountability, but doesn't have the time and money, right? A lot of people don't want to be at physical therapy 5 days a week anyways. But 2 times a week is a pretty good commitment from this patient, and committing to it basically for the rest of her life is awesome. So that's a combination of what are your goals, what's your commitment to PT, and how well are you doing with what we've already done. We'll call the second patient Duke. Duke visits 1 time a month for recovery work. So this is that lifelong patient example. He likes dry needling. He likes to come in. He trains weightlifting on a 4-week cycle. His 4th week is always a deload, and he likes to come in and get dry needling to his shoulders and his quads before he starts another cycle. Active person, lifting 4 to 6 days a week, running, recreationally active, skiing in the winter, wake surfing in the summer. Lifestyle is pretty dialed in, eating well, sleeping well, training often, rarely drinks, right? Doesn't have any active symptoms, has a high enough commitment to physical therapy to say, I want to come here once a month, and I don't mind paying for the dry needling out of pocket. So that's the example of a lifelong patient. So a good balance of what are your goals? Well, I'm just training to be strong and healthy. I'm not having any sort of competition or anything coming up anytime soon. I'm committed to 1 time a month, and I don't mind paying for it. No comorbidities on board. Really good response to treatment. That is, there's no symptoms, so always responds well to the treatment that we do. And then irritability and severity are not a factor because this patient doesn't have any symptoms. So a good example of a lifelong patient. And then we'll call the third patient Todd. So Todd comes in bi-weekly, so every other week, and this is just a progression of his home program. So initially started with some dry needling, initially started weekly, and then backed this patient off to every other week. How did I determine that? Well, the patient is very compliant with his homework. After the first couple visits, learning that he is actually running through it twice a day, which makes sense. Every time he comes in, he's better. So he's committed to doing the home program at home. He has the equipment to do it. He doesn't need me to watch him come in and do that program. Very weak calf after surgery is what we're working on. Not able to even do a heel raise when he came in, and now almost to a single leg heel raise as he's progressed. Factors here, I really had to determine what is your commitment to physical therapy. I know that this patient lives far away, lives an hour and 15 minutes away. So if I told him to come 2 to 3 days a week, that would probably not be feasible, right? If I scheduled him 3 times a week, what would happen? Probably what happens in a lot of clinics when we schedule patients more than they have the time or money to afford is that they just keep rescheduling or canceling, right? So really important to work out with this patient of, hey, as soon as I determine that we can have you come in less, I'm definitely going to do that. And now we got him on a bi-weekly plan, and the next time he comes in, we'll probably be done based on how he's been progressing. But again, that is on me during the eval to let that patient know, determine these factors for plan of care length, and also be upfront of, hey, you're going to need to come in for more than I'd like you to. I know you have a far drive, but as soon as I determine that you can do this stuff at home and that you're making progress on your own, definitely going to have you come in less to save you the time and money from that drive. So a good compromise with that patient to get them help. There's big pressure, obviously, in bigger clinics to get people booked more frequently, and I think that leads to the high amounts of no-show cancellation rates that we see in our profession. We're not considering all of these factors to determine how much physical therapy somebody actually needs, or in the case of somebody who does not have the time and or money, that we are not overbooking people who are just going to end up canceling on us. So sit back and reflect. Are you addressing all of these factors when you're determining how often to schedule somebody for physical therapy? Are you looking at their irritability and severity? Are you looking at how they responded to trial treatment during evaluation? Are you considering comorbidities that may be limiting progress, that may determine if a patient needs more or less therapy? Are you asking the patient's goals? What sort of things are coming up on the horizon that may help us determine a timeline of when we need to be better by, if possible? And then what is that patient's actual commitment to PT? What do they have the time and money to commit to? Do they have equipment at home for home program, or do they just need the pressure and accountability of coming in to see you more frequently, even if they could do it on their own? Those are all very important factors to consider when we're determining how long somebody needs to come in and see us for physical therapy and how often per week, and trying to get away from the 3 times a week for 4 weeks or 2 times a week for 6 weeks that we get kind of caught in, just going off the referral from the PCP. So consider those factors. We'd love to hear your thoughts on Facebook or Instagram. If you're on the podcast, you can shoot us an email, info@ice.physio. Look out for a great hump day hustling tomorrow morning. Hope to see you tomorrow night on the Fitness Athlete Case Studies call. Remember, that is free. Listen to the start of the podcast for a number of different ways to get the link. And then I'll be back on Thursday, on Leadership Thursday, to talk with you all again. So I hope you have a fantastic Tuesday. Have a great day in the clinic. Thank you for joining me here early. Bye, everybody.
Hey, thanks for tuning in to the PT on Ice Daily Show. If you enjoyed this content, head on over to iTunes and leave us a review. And be sure to check us out on Facebook and Instagram at the Institute of Clinical Excellence. If you're interested in getting plugged into more ICE content on a weekly basis while earning CEUs from home, check out our virtual ICE online mentorship program at ptonice.com. While you're there, sign up for our Hump Day Hustling newsletter for a free email every Wednesday morning with our top 5 research articles and social media posts that we think are worth reading. Head over to ptonice.com and scroll to the bottom of the page to sign up.